This is MTG Burgeoning, and in this video we will showcase the contents of Black Color Support Pack number 4 of our Jumpstart Commander Cube. If you haven't been following along or are new to the channel, look in the description of this video for links to the primer video for this series, its playlist, as well as a list of the cards featured in this video. As previously showcased during the primer video for this series, these are the types of cards you can expect to see in every color support pack. Now, with the prologue coming to an end, let's start spotlighting some black support cards, beginning with 3 basic swamps. That's it. 3 basic swamps, similar to 3 little pigs? No, 3 blind mice. Okay, that doesn't really work because there's 4 of them there. All right, on the back end of these 3 basic swamps, we have 3 basic snow-covered swamps. So we have 6 total basic swamps, 3 of which are regular and 3 of which get a little frosty when that snow starts falling, which, let's face it, is probably already happening by the time this video reaches the MTG Burgeoning community. All right, with our 6 basic lands out of the way, you know what's coming up next. If you've been watching these videos all along, that will be our Thriving land. And in a black support pack, it's Thriving More. This land enters the battlefield tapped, and when it does, we choose a color other than black. We can tap this land to add 1 black mana or 1 mana of the chosen color to our mana pool. Next up is going to be our utility land and second consecutive non-basic land, and in our 4th black color support pack here, that land is Hidden Necropolis, a cave that enters the battlefield tapped, taps for a black mana, and we can pay 4 and a black mana and tap and sacrifice Hidden Necropolis to discover 4. We can activate this ability only as a sorcery. So to discover 4, we exile cards from the top of our library until we exile a non-land card with mana value 4 or less. We cast it without paying its mana cost, or we put it into our hand. We put all other cards revealed this way on the bottom of our library in a random order. How amazing is the Discover ability? Is it not better than Cascade? How could it not be when you can choose to not cast the spell and put it into your hand instead? Well, we have that here in Black Color Support Pack number 4 through the use of Hidden Necropolis. Next up is going to be our MDFC. That's going to be our modal double-face card. Spell on the front, land on the back. And in this pack, we have Bogart Trawler, a 3/1 goblin for 2 and 1 black mana. When Bogart Trawler ETBs, we exile target player's graveyard. This is an ability that's strong enough to consider not ever using it on the backside. I mean, this is EDH, folks. Everybody wants to abuse their graveyards. In fact, there are entire themes in the Jumpstart Commander packs that are built around it. Bogart Trawler can come down just for the meager investment of 3 overall mana, exile that player's graveyard, and just watch as their spirit becomes crushed. And then we're left with a 3/1 goblin that, hey, maybe it can deal some combat damage, or maybe it can be a chump blocker. Either way, we did our job by getting rid of a graveyard player's graveyard. If we choose not to do that, then we could also play this card on the backside for Bogart Bog, a land that enters the battlefield tapped, and when it does, we may pay 3 life. If we don't, it will remain tapped. And then we can tap it to add 1 black mana to our mana pool. Since this MDFC has a land option stapled to the backside of the card, we're going to slap it up there with our other lands. It looks like we're curving up here a little bit, and I don't want to do that. There we go. All right, moving forward, our next card is our Planeswalker of our support pack. And we're going all the way back to the OG version of 1 Liliana Vess. Here we have a Planeswalker, the very first Lily. She comes into play with 5 loyalty counters for 3 and 2 black mana. That's a fantastic mana value to loyalty ratio of 1-to-1. We can add a loyalty counter to the Liliana Vess to have target player discard a card. We can -2 this version of Lily, the OG, to pretty much just Vampiric Tutor without losing any life. We're going to search our library for a card. We're going to shuffle our library library and put that card on top of it. And if we can keep Liliana on our side of the battlefield long enough to remove 8 loyalty counters from her, we can put all creature cards and all graveyards onto the battlefield under our control, which is Rise of the Dark Realms, a sorcery that costs a total of 9 mana, 7 and 2 black. This is a very powerful version of Lily, although the +1 to have target player discard a card seemingly is the weakest of these 3 abilities. And still, if our opponent is gripping 1 or 2 cards on their hand and we're in the mid to late game, maybe it would be the most advantageous to have Liliana have that player discard those cards to the graveyard. All right, our next card is our creature modifier. It's either going to be an aura or an equipment. And in our color support pack number 4 of the black variety here, it is an equipment. It is Vorpal Sword. We have an equipment here for 1 black mana and an equip cost of 2 black mana. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has Death Touch. Not too bad at all. However, if we have enough mana to activate it, we can pay 5 and 3 black mana of Vorpal Sword's activated ability here, and until end of turn, Vorpal Sword will gain whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. So if we definitely have enough mana to do it, we always leave that mana up during our pre-combat main phase heading into combat. We send a creature equipped with Vorpal Sword. Maybe it's just a 1/1, maybe it's an 0/1. We send it into combat. It's getting +2/+0 and Death Touch. Then our opponents are going to be forced to block this death-touching chump creature that we only needed to pay 2 black mana to equip the sword onto, because if they don't do it, if they fail to use any creature possible, including maybe their most threatening creature or their commander, we're going to jam 5 and 3 black mana. We're going to make that ability trigger upon them. We're going to make that ability become activated. And when that lonely little creature deals combat damage to that player will lose the game. All right, our next card is going to be our Color Strength spell. And if we're talking about black and one of its strengths, we're talking about mana acceleration. That comes to us in the form of Cabal Ritual. Instant speed, 1 and 1 black mana. We add 3 black mana to our mana pool. However, through the threshold mechanic of the spell, if our graveyard has 7 or more cards in it, instead we add 5 black mana instead of the 3. So let's make sure that we have at least 7 cards in our graveyard, because we want to get that 5 mana return for the investment of 1 and 1 black. Or if we're really, really ramping out in the early game to the early mid game, maybe getting that 1 extra black mana, the 1 extra mana by investing 2, we're going to get 3 if we don't have threshold. Maybe that's enough to really tilt the battlefield in our favor. All right, next up, we're going to shift into our spot and mass removal and disruption spells. And our first is Ultimate Price. Instant speed, 1 and 1 black mana, destroy target mono-colored creature. It should be noted that this will not take out every single commander in the Jumpstart Commander Cube. It will take out a couple of them because they are mono-colored, just that their color identity There are some of the commanders in the commander packs of our Jumpstart Commander Cube that are mono-colored, but their color identity is 3 based upon activated abilities that they have. So Ultimate Price is not going to touch every single commander at the table, but there are going to be plenty of mono-colored creatures, including those couple of commanders, that Ultimate Price can definitely destroy. Our next spot removal spell is Assassin's Link. Instant speed, 2 and 2 black mana. This spell costs 1 less to cast if we control an artifact, and one less to cast if we control an enchantment. It is very reasonable in these Jumpstart Commander decks that we could have an enchantment and an artifact on our side of the battlefield at the same time. And if we do, then Assassin's Link is only going to cost us 2 black mana instead of 2 generic mana and the same 2 black mana. And what do we get when we cast cast this spell, well, we get to destroy target creature or planeswalker. If we can shrink that mana value down to 2 black mana, or even if we get 1 generic mana reduction off of it, it's still a very good return on our investment for 1 and 2 black mana to destroy target creature or planeswalker. That is just simply Hero's Downfall. All right, our next couple of cards are going to be our mass removal and disruption cards, and similar to the previous 3 black support packs, and this one and the next 2, the first slot is dedicated to a card that comes down that forces a sacrifice by every single player at the table, except we know it's coming. That is Merciless Executioner, a 3/1 Orc Warrior for 2 and 1 black mana. When Merciless Executioner enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. We will most likely be sacrificing the Executioner. A 3/1 is not going to be very impactful during combat. What our opponents end up sacrificing, well, that could be much, much more painful for them to sacrifice and much, much more impactful to have them off their sides of the battlefield when it pertains to our success in combat. Next is our last mass removal spell of this pack, and it is Necromantic Selection, a sorcery for 4 and 3 black mana that reads, destroy all creatures, and then return a creature card put into a graveyard this way onto the battlefield under our control. It's a black zombie in addition to its other colors and types, and then we exile Necromantic Selection. This is going to be a symmetrical effect. We are also going to lose all of our creatures. However, we do get to pick whatever the best creature is heading to the graveyard, and we get to put that onto our side of the battlefield. Sometimes that may be our commander. We can let our commander hit the graveyard and then return it to play with Necromantic Selection's ability. Our next card up is going to be our hate card or our defense card, and in this color support pack, it is Dauthi Voidwalker, a 3/2 Dauthi Rogue for 2 black mana. This creature has the Shadow mechanic. That means that a creature with Shadow can be blocked or blocked. I'm sorry, let me say that again. I'm confusing it. A creature with Shadow can block or be blocked only by other creatures with Shadow. Shadow is going to be seen in some of the packs of this Jumpstart Commander Cube. It is not a regular component of the Jumpstart Commander Cube, so it seems very likely that Dauthi Voidwalker is going, Dauthi Voidwalker, not worker, he's going to be doing some work, I'll tell you that. Dauthi Voidwalker should be able to slide in for unblocked combat due to it having Shadow. So let's continue. If a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, instead that card is exiled with a void counter on it. We can tap and sacrifice Dauthi Voidwalker to choose an exile card an opponent controls with a void counter on it, and we may play it this turn without paying its mana cost. That is unbelievable. So anytime any card is going to an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, it's not heading to the graveyard, folks. So those graveyard synergistic commander players at the Jumpstart table, or should I say Jumpstart commander players at the EDH table, those cards are going straight into exile with void counters on them. And note, all we have to do is tap Dauthi Voidwalker in order to cast one of those spells without paying its mana cost. And also note that the timing restrictions are not honored here. So we could do this during an opponent's turn because there is nothing limiting or restricting us to doing this at sorcery speed or only during our turn. Dauthi Voidwalker is a very hateful card, but it could be loved by the person who ends up claiming this black support pack. All right, our next card is going to be our Resource Advancement card. Now here we're looking for advancements in the forms of cards in hand, mana acceleration, ways in which to advance or enhance our board state. And our card here is Barbed Servitor, a 1/1 indestructible construct for 3 and 1 black mana. When Barbed Servitor enters the battlefield, we suspect it. What the heck? We suspect it. Oh, yes, this is from Murders at Karlov Manor. All right, to suspect a creature, it has menace, but it can't block. So we get to have the evasion of a 1/1, but we lose the blockability of it having indestructible, which doesn't help us on the defensive side at all. So we have a 1/1 menacing indestructible that cannot block. Oh boy, what else do we have here? Whenever Barbed Servitor deals combat damage to a player, we draw a card and we lose 1 life. All right, so we're going to send an indestructible menacing creature with 1/1 power and toughness into combat that if our opponent's going to have to use 2 of their creatures to block, it's only a 1/1. All right, moving forward, whenever Barbed Servitor is dealt damage, target opponent loses that much life. Now the trap is set. They're either going to have to try to prevent us from getting cards into our hand by blocking Barbed Servitor with 2 creatures, and those 2 creatures are going to deal combat damage to Barbed Servitor. The creature isn't going to die because it's indestructible, and with that last line, target opponent is going to lose as much life as Barbed Servitor is dealt damage. And if you want to get a little sneaky with it, you can do some politicking at the EDH table, since you're not going to lose Barbed Servitor to combat damage because of its indestructibility. You can send it at an opponent that has, like a 12/12 and a 5/5 and have it blocked by both of those creatures. And then suddenly, target opponent, who's been a complete you-know-what the entire game, is going to lose 12 life and then 5 life. That's 17 life, and they weren't even part of combat. Barbed Servitor is a lot of fun, and if you get him in this color support pack, you are going to have a blast. All right, next up is our combat enhancement card, and in this pack, we are going to enhance our combat by creating oodles and oodles of zombie creature tokens. Grave Titan is a 6/6 giant with Death Touch for 4 and 2 black mana. When it enters the battlefield or when it attacks, we create 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Just it ETBing gives us a total of 10 power and 10 toughness, stretched to cost 3 bodies for the investment of 6 mana. If we have a way in which to give it haste, it can attack right away. If not, and we have to wait for a round of turns to attack with it, we're going to get even more of those token zombies, as long as it's still on our side of the battlefield when it's time to attack. All right, MTG Burgeoning community, the last card of our black color support pack here is our iconic creature type of black. You know it's going to be a demon, you just don't know which one. Well, the suspense is over. It is Demon Lord Belzenlok, a 6/6 legendary elder demon with flying and trample for 4 and 2 black mana. When Demon Lord Belzenlok enters the battlefield, we exile cards from the top of our library until we exile a non-land card. Then we put that card into our hand. If the card's mana value is 4 or greater, we repeat this process. Demon Lord Belzenlok deals 1 damage to us for each card we put into our hand this way. We should be able to score multiple cards off of this demon's ETB trigger, but not to the point where we have to worry about it ended up killing us. We do have quite the, as you can see just from this support pack, we do have quite the range of mana values across the different cards in this pack, and that is a trend that is seen in every single color support pack, the colorless support pack, in addition to the commander packs. So we can count on Demon Lord Belzenlok putting, I would say, minimally at least 2 cards into our hand, although it could just be 1 if we get the wrong string of cards on top of our library when this Elder Demon decides to hit the battlefield. All right, MTG Burgeoning community, we just showcased the contents of Black Color Support Pack number 4. Let me know your thoughts about these cards in the comments section below. This is MTG Burgeoning, a channel for all things Magic.